I want to welcome you. Well, welcome everyone. Very exciting to see all these pictures of our employees in different categories or in different situations. This was a nice catalog to put together, and I think it's a reminder to me and hopefully also to you, our customers, of all the people to make FileWave what it is today. My name is Tobias Schimmer. I'm the CEO of FileWave, and I'm very excited to welcome you today to another eAlliance event. The second quarter has closed. A lot of you are busy in the summer getting ready for the new school year, the education customers and enterprise customers also getting ready, for the employees joining after the summer break. And I'm very excited today to interface with you and show you what we've been up to and share some of the news with you. Before we get into some of the details, quick look at the agenda today. So we have Tony Keller and Josh Levitsky, who will tell you what's new with the product. They will talk about the next release that's coming up. And then Josh, he's the global head of our professional services. He will talk about some of the things in his department. After that, we'll showcase or talk about the iOS release for our ClassSpaces product that's available. And then at the end, we'll have, as always, I think the favorite session of everyone, at least based on your feedback, the Q&A session where you can ask us anything and we'll try to answer your questions. So next slide, please. So I think with that, let's, you've seen many of the people that work at FileWave and make it what it is, make it what it is today. And I'm super excited to announce that we are continuously adding basically talent to FileWave, which I think is just underlying that we're working really hard to make this an even better product for you guys out there, and really invest in that. So we have four people that I want to highlight. Many more have actually started since we last talked 3 months ago. And I want to start with the lady, here on the slide, Patricia Regenhardt. She's based in Germany. She joined us as our global head of marketing, and she's also on this call. So I wanted to hand it over to you, Patricia, real quick to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tobias, and hello to everyone. As Tobias indicated, I'm Patricia Regenhardt, and I'm the global head of marketing. I'm joined FileWave in the beginning of April this year, and I'm very happy to be part of this amazing team and the organization. So a little bit of background from my side. I've been in marketing now for around 15 years. And worked in different types of companies, from startup to established bigger companies, in fully digital and non-digital business models, and in companies in different industries, for example, in engineering, IT consulting, fintech, and software as a service. And as I can still remember my very first job, back in 2007, where I was supposed to build up the digital marketing and improve communications with the target audiences of a Swedish engineering company in Central Europe, which is pretty similar to what I'm supposed to do here at FileWave. So, but just a bit more like on a larger scale. So I'm very much looking forward to support all the activities here, also together with the sales teams, with Ferdy and Tim, and also with Caroline, and all the other departments. And yeah, very much looking forward, and also looking forward to get in touch with all of you. So that's all from my side, and back to you, Tobias.
Yeah, warm welcome again, Patricia. It's great to have you on board, and I can say, I think probably all the customers on this call have already also gotten some email, maybe, through all the systems that you're putting in place. So Patricia, is really, I think, modernizing the way we communicate both to prospective customers, but then also with you, our existing customers, through improved systems. So hopefully you're, or I think you will also benefit from that through getting more tailored information as existing customers. So a couple of more folks that have started. We have Ferdi Khan. He is our director in enterprise sales in Europe, where we're really putting a focus to grow the business and win some more, customers. And yeah, he started 2 months ago. It's already like in full swing. He can't join today because he's busy in some customer meetings. And then we have a new vice president of sales in APAC. So as probably I've mentioned before, we are very active in APAC. We're selling through partnerships, especially with the big OEM Lenovo in Asia, and really expanding the business there, which is great, right? And in the end will allow us to invest even more into the product and then benefit all of you as well as our existing customers. And then I think last but not least, I'll keep that short, Gernot Jermin. He is on Tony's team. He's the product manager for the core product. So basically the product that all of you guys out there are using. He comes with a lot of experience, and I don't want to steal his thunder. He will introduce himself a little later on. Very, very excited to have him on board, as he will help us to just interface much more with you guys and basically play the middle part between, market and what we're doing on the whole development front. So he has joined he's a couple of weeks in, and he will be introduced by Tony and introduce himself a little later here on. So I think with that, you can jump to the next slide, which is just another review of the agenda. I'm going to hand it over to Tony and Josh, who have some very exciting topics, I think, to talk about, and who are probably our, technically most deep and informed people. So excited to hand it over to you guys, and looking forward to listen and learn. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tobias. I guess, Tony, I'll go to the next slide for you.
Good morning, everybody. We're really happy to have you all on board with us today. And for those of you who are on vacation, we applaud that. We're very happy to have you enjoying your time off. We have some of our folks out today as well, so we're a little thin here too. But we're expecting FileWave 14.8 will release tomorrow for general availability. A few folks started getting it last week, but it's going to everybody starting tomorrow. If you go to the next bit there, Josh. There's a couple of things I want to point out with this release that are particularly of note for you before you start to upgrade. One, you can expect slightly longer than normal upgrade times for this particular upgrade. There was a change made to some of the integer formats that we have in the database that take a while for the conversion in the database. So it's to avoid us running out of numbers. Basically, when things get very, very large, we had to expand a few fields. And that takes a little while. For some of the largest environments, might take up to an hour, 2 hours. So you want to plan that upgrade for a time when you can accept that downtime during the upgrade, basically. So there is that to be aware of. There are a couple of new ports as well. This particular release has a lot to do with some underlying changes in the product, not as many feature-related things. But one of the things that we're doing is moving from our notification engine of 0MQ over to a NATS, which is a more cloud-friendly, basically a better protocol for notification. There are some new ports for that, so you'll want to make sure, especially if you're running in your own on-premise environment, that you make sure and open your firewall for those ports so that your admins can get to the notification. So those are called out in the release notes and in our knowledge base articles. And lastly, in the completion of our integration of TeamViewer, the older observe client functionality that was VNC based is now fully removed in 14.8. So it's all TeamViewer and the great functionality that we have there. A couple of things that are new in this particular release. There's more personalization now in the web admin. It's an implied save, but there are preferences basically where you were last. For instance, when you log out, when you resume, you'll go back to that same place. Remembered views as far as some column settings and things that make it a little more friendly as well. So we've made some changes there. The FileWave client in 14.8 is also now 100% native Apple Silicon without the need for Rosetta 2. The booster and server, if you're running booster or server on Mac platform, those are mostly native, but we're continuing to work on that, and we'll have those updated shortly. What's the missing piece? The admin still requires Rosetta 2 for sure. So that'll be the last piece that we fully complete with that. For any of you who have ever experienced the issue of double importing the same VPP token, which is kind of easy to do, we now prevent that by looking at some of the metadata that's related to that VPP token to try to prevent it so you don't run into an issue of licensing. That's been a big deal. And then there's some updates on the Windows MDM side, both with new device wipe command options, and we've also got a new profile for modifying Windows update ranks that I don't have mentioned here. Lastly, on this new release, one essential bug fix that I'll call out was Windows 11 support for PowerShell scripts, where that was broken in 14.7. That is now resolved in 14.8. So that may be, if you're managing Windows, that's kind of a big deal. So that's the release. Expect that to come out tomorrow, and you'll get updates on that soon. All right, next slide, if you would, Josh. So what are we talking about next? All right, if we're going to talk a little bit about roadmap and product board. So some of the things we're working on currently is an associations conversion tool, which is for the web. It allows associations to convert to deployments. We're going to give a little sneak peek of that a little bit later here today. We're also working on re-architecting our IVS solution, our imaging solution for Windows, so that it can support our customers who function with FileWave in the cloud. So that's kind of a big deal as well. We're working on the Apple fall release. There's a whole lot in the fall release for Apple, so that'll be upcoming in the fall. But of course, as always, there's lots of profile changes for DP. There's profile changes in configuration profiles, new functionality with the determinative. I get it wrong every time, but
deterministic.
That's it, deterministic behavior. So we're starting to work on that as well. So whole lot of effort going on to the Apple fall release right now. And in general, the team really have their noses to the grindstone working on the web admin console in general, working on performance and working in quality with that, because as we're moving to that, we need to make sure it's 100% solid. We also, as Tobias mentioned before, have a new hire, Gernot German, who is our new product manager. I've been in that role as an acting product manager for the last year and a half or so. So I'm thrilled personally to see Gernot join us. And he joins us coming from Autodesk, which is one of the few products that I'd say that might be just as complex and deep as our product. So we really look forward to his being here. Gernot, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sure. So again, my name is Gernot Jeromin. I'm the new product manager, the new kid on the block. I come from the construction industry, so mainly. So I did pretty much everything, like plant, from petrochemical, power plants, nuclear, whatever, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. I did a lot in the AEC industry, including bridges and stuff like that. And I also did some really fun stuff like flying around with drones, making photos and creating 3D models out of those photos and ending up in real-time animation. So a lot of different stuff. And of course, connecting all that stuff what our customers used to do with the cloud and collaboration and stuff like that. I used to work in pre-sales, sales. I've established a few offices, actually multiple times for other companies. And I'm a product manager since over 13 years, gosh. And we used to live with my family in total over 8 years in sunny California in the US. So you hear my accent that I'm German, and we are back in Germany. We live in Germany with the whole family. And it's totally exciting to be now at FileWave. So very important. What can I say to you as since I'm a PM or product manager? I would love talking to you. So please reach out to me. Schedule calls. There's this QR code next to my picture. If you take out your cell phones and try to get the link, you will get access to Calendly. So you can schedule a call with me, meeting with me right away if you like. And please don't be shy. So my job is really like reaching out to you guys, discussing with you stuff, where you come from, where you want to go to, what do you need, why do you need it? And it's super important for the further discussions. So typically I say, if you don't talk to us, you can't expect anything. So if you want to get something done, just reach out to me and talk to me. There's other stuff like product board. I encourage you to go there and have a look at it, bring in new ideas, vote for ideas, and give us your feedback. We are tracking that. Sometimes it may not seem so, but we definitely do that. So spending a lot of time over there. And yeah. So just give us your feedback. So I'm with the company since only 5 weeks. It's awesome team, awesome company, cool stuff what we are doing, and be a little bit patient. I've learned a lot the last 5 weeks, and I have to learn a lot of more stuff in the future, of course. And yes, enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you, Gurno. And on the roadmap and the product board side of things, Josh, would you mind launching that video real quick? I just wanted to remind everybody kind of how that works if you've not done any submissions. In the knowledge base, you'll see there's an article on the FileWave, basically product management. There are 3 links in there. One for the roadmap that just shows you the roadmap, a second one that gives you the ability to give feedback on that roadmap, and a third that's just more general product suggestions. So if we take a look at that product suggestions portal here, it's going to kick us over to the Foundry where this information is, and you can submit feedback on any of the things we have posted. And you can submit any feedback on anything that's not posted. You can submit your own ideas. So when you click on one of the cards in this view and you scroll down to the bottom of that card, you'll see, you can say how important this particular thing is to you. So you can say it's nice to have, it's important, it's critical, and then you can give additional feedback here. You then just specify your email address and you can submit this basically feedback to us, and we use that internally for scoring requests, trying to understand how important it is to folks across the board. The roadmap portal is very much the same, where we're showing the things that we're working on in these releases, and you can give us feedback on those particular things as well. So really, there's a lot of different ways you can give us feedback. I do highly recommend that you reach out to Gurno, speak to him if you like. Of course, I'm always available too, and you can give us feedback through the portal. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware that you can do it if you haven't. And many of you have, and we really appreciate all of the feedback. All right, Josh, we can head on back. All right. And on the next slide, we've reached out a number of times to you over the last couple of months because we've kind of made the big time in being attacked. We had a researcher attempt to attack our product. They were successful in attacking our product. We worked with them very closely to understand that attack vector to make a change. We fixed it kind of immediately, but we've been working on that now with all of you over the last couple of months to address the upgrades in the field. And thank you so much for all of your work to do that. A little bit more than 80% of our on-premise customers have upgraded their environments. There's still some stragglers. The CVEs for these vulnerabilities are now live, but the report on the actual vulnerability, exactly what it was, how it was attacked, what has been done to address it, is coming out next Monday at 3 p.m. Israeli time. We really do want to thank Clarity for working with us so much on this. They've been a really good partner in this, in both, and hopefully we'll continue to work with them in the future on things as well. All of the vulnerabilities that were identified by Clarity are addressed in version 14.6.3 and above, and version 14.7.2 and above, and of course fixed in 14.8. The release is tomorrow. For those of you who got annoyed with the emails, yes, we did overdo the emails a little bit, but we were trying to err on the side of taking care of you and making sure that everybody was aware of this. So we've really felt that over communication was the right path to take to make sure that everybody was up to speed. And just one more time, I will say that Declarative has been great to work with on this. They've been very professional, and I think when you take a look at the report, you'll see it's very clear and concise. So we're pretty happy with that. Back over to you, Josh.
Actually, to Andreas for a second, and then to
yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited being here for more than 5 years with FileWave now, mainly as a sales engineer. I'm really excited to move to a new major role, which is what we call community manager, which has the goal bringing all of you people together. So you've been asking for this for a very long time and for a good reason. And yeah, now we start with this. We start with a customer forum, and English and German speaking part will be in there. It's planned to start to be online in fall this year. For those who just want to follow and read, it will be so read only. There's no login required. Who of you already has a FileWave account on a website, a knowledge base download page and everything, you will be able to use the same one on this. And yeah, again, I'm pretty excited to start this now, and see you soon, hopefully. And there is definitely more to come. As I said, we start with that forum, but there will be more, definitely. Looking forward to see you. Thank you, Josh.
Well, thank you, Andreas. Okay, so now for me, so there's US Training Day. So just speaking about North America for a second, we have this event in October that was announced. Hopefully everybody got an invitation to sign up for that. You know, that's where it's $500 per person. It'll be an all-day event, includes breakfast and lunch. There's the sample agenda that was sent out over on the right. If you saw this, we announced it a few months ago, and it was before your budget year. You know, but now your budget's open. You could register now, and we put a QR code here to make it easy for you to register. And if you miss seeing this QR code, it's at the very end of the Alliance meeting. We'll have the QR codes from this and a few other things listed on screen in case you miss getting it now. So in addition, there's a little change that we're going to do. So one, we want to have in-person events, and this is an in-person event. But two, for in-person events, I don't think we were ever handing out certificates for continuing education units before. I'm a person that has several certifications. I have a CISSP, I have CompTIA A+, and Linux Plus, and Project Plus. And for any of you that have certifications, you know, most of them have a renewal process, and most of them allow you to have CEUs from other organizations. So, you know, if you attend a training, we should give you something that, you know, says that you attended and got 7 hours worth of instruction or something, so that you could use it for those other renewals. It just gives you a little, you know, extra value to that to use towards your other renewals. And those CEUs will also be used by us. I'm going to talk about the Foundry a bit in a minute, but we're also kind of redoing the FileWave certification program, and those will play into that as well. Okay. We also want to, you know, do things in Europe and, you know, ultimately in Asia, and, you know, we want to cover, you know, all the areas that we do business. So in Europe, we are planning actually a virtual event at this time. COVID's been a bit of a problem, and so, you know, if you use this QR code, you can register your interest in a virtual event. And, you know, if the timing works for you and you can't travel to Indy, you know, maybe you attend this virtual Europe event, even if you're in North America. And again, it would have CEUs. This is planned to be all day. You know, there'll be, because it's virtual, we're thinking of ways that you could communicate, like a chat room, you know, so that you can interact and get to know other customers as well. There'll be some kind of networking to it as well. And this one's planned for September, where the other one's in October. So, scan this QR code if you have interest, and we'll collect your name and email so that we can keep communicating with you about it. Okay, so next, I want to talk about something called FileWave Assist, that if you're in North America and you had a renewal that came up for September and moving forward, those are the folks that would have seen this name and wondered, what is FileWave Assist? And this is something that is starting with these renewals, but will continue to spread as an offering around the world, and even for new customers who come on board. So the idea was, we've always had something called the TAP program. If you've ever spoken with me or Tony Keller in the past about TAP, it was about 40 hours of us working with you. We'd work with you monthly, we'd build things for you, we'd have this partnership together, but 40 hours can be a bit expensive. So it excludes a lot of customers who might, if you spend, let's say, $1,000 a year with us, do you want to spend $10,000 on professional services? Not necessarily. Some people would, but not everyone. So we rethought this. The TAP program still exists as a thing. You could still sign up for that. But FileWave Assist will be on your renewal, where you could choose the renewal path that does not include it. This is not like a forced purchase, but there'll be a second renewal that shows you the price of FileWave Assist. And the idea is, no matter your size, the smallest version of this gives you a monthly, about an hour-long session. And in the smallest one, it's groups. So you and, maybe 3 other customers, anywhere from 4 to 6 customers grouped together. Maybe we'll have some other larger group things available, right? Because part of this program, we might have, a workshop on APIs. We might talk about, why and how to set up third-party authentication like Google, Azure, or Okta. So we want to make these interesting, and we want to, in the smallest ones where it ends up being groups, we're going to try and focus on the things that are important to the group. If we have 4 customers that use, FileWave to manage Macintosh systems, we're not going to spend time on Chromebooks, except if, the group would like to pursue that. Then, as you move, it's a continuum. So as you move like a step up, it becomes more one-on-one, same thing, monthly calls. And as it gets to be bigger and bigger, and this is all kind of sized on, based on what your annual purchase is with us. We don't offer you the largest program, because again, that wouldn't make sense. Otherwise you would have bought a TAP. We try and size it to the size of organization you are. And we start to add things like a full health check, 1 full day access to US Training Day. With US Training Day coming up, we're going to think to the future, and we hope that October is successful and that we would want to have in-person events and maybe also virtual events in 2023. And so we can make the benefit be access to that. So we're going to try and think of things that give you value as it gets larger. And if you get the FileWave Assist on your renewal and you say to yourself, I really want these other things, we can certainly, offer you the larger one. We're making assumptions based on, purchase history. And so definitely let us know if you see a renewal and you have questions. You can have a meeting with me or your customer experience person and talk about it. And like I said, North America right now, but as we develop this and the material for it and it all gets built out, we want to do it globally. Okay, so this one is kind of a global thing, and the next couple of things I'm going to talk about are kind of the free things that we offer, right? Because we need to enable you. We need to make sure you're able to use the products, that our materials are good, that you don't necessarily always have to pay for access to material. There's a certain amount of material that we should just be giving you. And the Foundry was always a great resource, right? Tony Keller built it up initially. It didn't have as much attention in the past. I've been here a year. I had a lot to do when I got on board, and Foundry I'll be honest that, it isn't where it should be at this very moment. However, we are in the midst of redesigning the content and marking what should get updated. I've already stripped it of anything that appeared obviously, gone, like, FileWave Engage, right? Doesn't exist, should be removed everywhere that we can unless it's buried within other content. We've added surveys at the end of each course so that you can tell us what you think of these courses. We also, it's not a bullet point here, but we used to charge access for the 200 level material in Foundry. We made that all just open to anyone. If you can't get into Foundry, just let customer experience know, or you can email the email address that you see. We made a simple Foundry@FileWave that goes to me, and I can make sure that you have access. If you're stuck, you can't log in, you just send me an email and we'll straighten it out. So, we've done some cleanup. We've put in some course surveys. We've identified things like the move over to TeamViewer from Observe that we need to change. And between Tony and Sean and myself, we're actually going to devote quite a bit of time to refreshing these materials and making them, even better than they were. So you should check it out and go through it. All the material that's there is pretty relevant still. We just want to add more things like web admin. I should also mention, it runs on Moodle. A lot of our customers are education customers, and you might use Moodle in your organization. If you happen to know Moodle pretty well, and you know that we could be doing something better, send me feedback, because I try to keep up on what Moodle is capable of. But, if you use it in your everyday and you know something that could be better, let me know. And I'm happy to make that improvement. Okay, the knowledge base, everybody would have seen emails about this. The migration from our on-premise instance of Confluence to the cloud. So we did that, we completed that July 9th, and that migration appears, largely successful. We tried to put redirects in so that if you had bookmarked some things from emails we had sent out or from the web page, that they should jump over to the new, but we can't redirect everything. So if you hit something that's a dead end, you'll get a page to that effect. If there's something that you think is broken or completely wrong, or you have any kind of feedback, kb@FileWave, another easy to remember email address, and you can let us know. There's also a new feature in this new version. There was a lot of benefit to going to this version. One is being, cloud-based, SaaS works out for patching, right? So you can choose your release track. We picked the bundled release track. So periodically there will be updates to the system. Confluence lets us know, they apply them, we can test. It's all really simple. We have guaranteed 99.9% uptime, I believe it was. So, with on-premise, we have to deal with having that server somewhere and whatever the uptime is of that and maintaining it. But now, we're reliant on Atlassian to take care of it, and they're pretty good at that. So for archiving of pages, you'll see on the portal, if you go to the lower left-hand corner, you'll see an archived pages. So we're not necessarily deleting pages, we're going to archive them. So if there was something important we think it's irrelevant, but there was something you were really looking for, you should be able to see archived pages. I'm also working with a vendor about the ability to rate pages. And I believe later today, they told me that they'll have a release that will work with our particular configuration. And so if you notice in the KB that some stars appear in the upper right-hand corner, that's where you can sort of rate the quality of an article. And I'm hopeful, again, that later today that will appear. They had a little defect that they had to work out, but they think they have it working for us. We've been going through every article, trying to make sure that they make sense, should they be there. There's some new analytics in the knowledge base, so we can see what you're searching for, whether it got a result for you, whether you clicked on it, because if we know what you're searching for and whether you were able to find it, we can improve the content. So this is part of our, trying to make it better before you even realize that you needed it to be better. So we're gonna look for that and keep on categorizing things and updating them. The download space is still a separate space that you can get to from that link. And when we release 14.8 to everybody, then that page will be posted in the download space just like before. You know, and there'll be email communication to this effect. So should be smooth. So the next thing is, we talked about this the last couple of Alliance meetings, that we wanted to have web admin workshops, something to kind of show you where the web admin was, teach you, you know, how it works, you know, and have something interactive where it's not just videos posted in YouTube or, you know, perhaps in the Foundry. We wanted to have, you know, kind of a one-on-one session. And what we came up with is that starting next Thursday, and basically every other Thursday for 5 Thursdays, Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central European Time, we're going to have 2-hour sessions. And if you go to this QR code, you can sign up for the session or sessions that you're interested in, because each session will not be a repeat of the last. Think of it like we're having 5 AMAs where folks can ask anything. We'll have certain things we want to show, like deployments versus associations. What's happening with associations? You know, what can you do in the web admin perhaps better than the native admin? You know, we'll go through that, and because it'll be, you know, probably smaller groups because we spread it out over 5 sessions, you'll be able to ask your questions. And even if we can't address every question on that session, we'll follow up with you. And if you attend that session and you had a question after it, you know, we'll have contact info so you can ask us, you know, a follow-up question. So, you know, this is free. So sign up to one if it works for you. I would say the only thing we haven't done with this is offered an Asia Pacific time zone that is particularly good. We're going to think about that, you know, because we do want to help everybody globally. So we're going to look at, you know, doing that for the future.
And of course,
Okay,
it's
so
the
then
middle
back
of
to Tony.
And of course, it's the middle of the night for our friends in,
Yeah.
in Asia Pacific right now, so they're not here to notice anyway. It'll be all right.
Yes.
But we would really like to do those web admin workshops in time zone as well. So we'll definitely work on that. Before I start talking about deployments, just a little bit, Josh, can you go back to the training day slide for just a second? I want to throw you a curveball since you're doing the presentation. But you know, we didn't really cover much with regard to the things we're actually talking about, but I'm really looking forward to this. As those of you who've been to the Alliance events before, you know, we've always did training day along with the Alliance event, and that's basically what this is we're just doing it as a standalone, and we're really excited for some of this content. I think there's going to be some things, again, we're going to talk about deployments, but custom fields, a lot of folks don't make the kind of use of custom fields that they could, right? So that's in that morning track where we're kind of just have everybody together, and then in the afternoon we're going to break that out in this kind of full day session where we're looking at things in an intermediate track, like how you build an automated workflow. How do you set it up so that you use the power of FileWave and the flexibility of FileWave without actually looking at FileWave? You know, system's doing the stuff while you're over doing something else, right? And that's really the goal, and the whole point of FileWave is, of course, to be an efficiency engine. So we're really looking forward to this training day, and in that advanced track, especially the API utilization. If you're wanting to take things to the next level with FileWave and automate, even further automate things in your environment and do some really complex things, you know, using the API to do it is great. We recently had a customer that wanted to do just some things that you wouldn't think you could do, like make a student an admin on their Windows workstation, but they're only an admin at nighttime. They're not actually an admin during the day, and at nighttime they can install stuff, but in the day they can't install stuff, and past 11 p.m. the device needs to shut down. All of these things that seem like they'd be impossible, when you start combining all of the tools that we have between the APIs, between custom fields, between FileWave policies, for instance, and we should probably cover that somewhere on training day. All of those things stitched together make for a heck of a flexible and powerful tool. So we really look forward to seeing you at training day. And if you haven't signed up and you think you might be able to make it by, you know, please do. And that, what's that date again? October 6th. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I guess I would add that, for the EU one, so the same group of us that are building content for the US one are building the EU one. So you should see, really good and interesting things in some of the materials that, as we've been reviewing them, they're incredibly interesting. Sean has made a thing that I didn't even think about being possible with being able, well, I don't want to give it away, but he's made some interesting things to show off that we're going to use in both events. So, perhaps you attend both, but there will be some overlap in material between the two.
And hey, maybe you want to mention that Josh, that Sean's joined the PS team.
Yeah. I think I talked about that he was moving into it in a past one, but yes, he's officially in Pro Services. Although if you open up a ticket in Europe for the next 3 weeks, you'll probably also speak with Sean, but he is generally in PS. He's doing backup where needed if support needs help. All
right, so let's move on back to deployments. And I do want to say, Josh listed off his quite long list of credentials. I'm a certified dad and farmer, and that's pretty much the end of my list of certifications. But I've been doing this a long time, and we've had a lot of questions about deployment, so we're going to talk just a little bit about it today. This is mostly more about the webinar, though. So if you get a chance, sign up for one of those webinars, at least one of them, to get a little bit more of a flavor for the web admin. But one of the things that's different in the web admin is deployments. In a previous slide, I said deployments versus associations. It's not really versus. They're not conflicting. They're not against each other. But deployments are slightly different than associations. Deployments are basically moving associations up one level. It's kind of like an Uber association, if you will. So a deployment allows you to group associations and make them just one entity, but combine multiple associations. So we're going to talk in the webinar specifically about what deployments are, how they're different from associations. They're mostly the same, but there are some differences. How are deployments more efficient? And that's the main reason this change, in fact, I wouldn't even call it a change. Let's call it an enhancement. It's the main reason this enhancement was implemented from the very beginning of our move to the web admin, is to try to make associations at least a little bit more efficient. There's also the open question, and the thing that's held a lot of folks up on deployments is it possible to change an association into a deployment? And we're going to give just a little preview of that today. And then we'll also cover things like, if you start to use deployments now, are you committed to using them forever? So we're going to answer all these types of things. But just as a little teaser, we don't normally show work that's kind of ongoing, but the team has been working very, very hard on converting associations to deployments. And I'd like to show you a little preview of that. Josh, if you wouldn't mind.
The video?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind firing up that video. Thank you. We graciously had a customer volunteer their data for this, so thank you very much. I don't want to call them out, but I want to say thank you. You know who you are. And in this view, you'll see associations actually showing in the web admin, and like many of your, you can go ahead and play that, Josh. Okay. Like in many of your environments, you'll see that maybe you haven't done so many deployments, but on the associations front, there are thousands. Right, you have just tons of them. Almost, from the very tiny environments to very, very large environments, there's usually a lot of associations. In this view, you'll see the associations, you see what file set revision is being used, and then most importantly, what device group or clone it's being assigned to, and what type of association it is. So if we look here, we'll see that we've got this little group of all computers. So we've got content assigned to all computers, and you can see that the type there on these is kiosk, some others are standard. So if you pause for a second there, Josh, thank you. You'll see here we're selecting 3 associations. And the reason we're selecting these is because basically they're metadata matches. This association is going to the same group, in this case, to all computers, and all 3 of them are kiosk. So these 3 kind of belong together. We can make a singular deployment convert these 3 records into one thing and just put those payloads on the Payloads tab. You can go ahead and click play on that now. Right? So that's why these 3 make sense. When we click Move to Deployment, right, it's going to allow us to either add them to an existing or create a new one. This is another big change here, is you're able then to name the deployment, which makes it much easier to find it later, and you can name it logically. So in this case, I called it All Computers Kiosk. You can see the target there was the All Computer group, and all 3 of these are payloads. And then on the Options tab, you'll see it's set to Kiosk, which is what they all were before. When we publish that, right, after seeing the summary here, when we publish that, that's now going to show in deployments that we've got a new deployment called All Computers Kiosk that we can come back and edit later. And those associations that we had before have now gone away. So when we scroll down here and take a look in that All Computer section, you can see we've only got the 2 standard associations now, not those kiosk ones. So that's the purpose of this tool. And if we keep it simple here, we'll do the same basic example with a standard or direct installation. Right? We'll do the same process. Again, name it meaningfully, right? Which makes it very easy to come back to later. And what this means is if I later want to add something to all computers, either in a kiosk form or in direct installation form, I don't have to create a new association. I can just add the payload into the deployment, and I'm done. Which is very similar to what some of you may be doing if you're using file set groups. It works basically exactly the same way. So here we've got the 2 deployments. Now, Josh, if you wouldn't mind pausing one more time when I get to these, let it go for just a second more. Right, if you pause after I select these 3 items. Right? If we look at this, we're selecting 3 things, and you notice when you look at the detail here that yes, they're all 3 going to all staff, but you notice that I've picked something that's not the same. One of them is kiosk and 2 of them are standard. So a lot of the things that the team are working on right now are not the easy things, the things that we just showed. That work's all done. But what we're working on are dealing with the conflicts. What happens if you're trying to merge multiple things? And there are lots of reasons that you may actually want to do that. So go ahead and click play here. And we're going to create a deployment from these 3, right? And basically convert these associations into the deployment. So it's kind of the same process, but kiosk and standard are not the same thing. And you'll notice that when we create a new deployment here, and of course give it a name, on the Options tab, you see it's showing us a conflict. If you want to pause there for a second, Josh. So it shows us that of the things that we've put in this deployment, 2 of them are direct associations, and 1 of them is a kiosk association. So that means if we want to continue this conversion to a deployment, we're still going to get rid of those associations, but that might have an impact on the endpoints, right? So you have to pick what you want to do here and resolve that conflict before you can actually save this. And then, although it's not implemented here, we won't see it in this particular build, there's also a preview at the end that allows you to preview all the changes before you actually commit them. But you can go ahead and click play here again, Josh. And we'll go ahead in this case and select the direct installation. And if you pause one more time for me, you'll see here that as soon as we pick direct, then we've got our timing options as far as installation are concerned. And that's another bit of the metadata that when we're doing these conversions that could conflict. Those payloads that we have assigned in an association might have different timing options. Those are things that can conflict. And when you're on the Payloads tab itself, as soon as we start doing dependencies, which many of you use, and file set revisions, which many of you use, we get additional things that can conflict here. So we're trying to make this as streamlined, as simple as we possibly can, but at the same time accounting for all the kind of edge cases and things that pop up here. So that's in progress now. We expect this to release sometime in the fall. This conversion tool is our expectation. And in general, on the web admin, we're really spending time in what I kind of consider the triangle of importance with FileWave, which is the devices view, the payloads view, and the deployments view, the things that give us that kind of 3-legged stool for deploying content. And that's it for the video, Josh. You can go ahead and kill that one. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit of some of the stuff we're doing with deployments. And in next week's webinar, of course, we'll be covering some of that. And when I say we, I mean other people will be covering that, and I might drive by. We'll see. But now I think we're going to hand things over. I think Caroline, you're going to talk a little bit about ClassSpaces.
Well, I am. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. Just wanted to let everybody know that we have an exciting update in terms of ClassSpaces. We did release our iOS support. So officially now we support all of the different device types. The team has been all around the country at many different trade shows, from Nebraska to New Orleans to Georgia to Tennessee. And then we're going to Alabama and Vegas and Indiana and California. And it's been just amazing talking to folks about ClassSpaces. And just to remind everybody, it is our classroom management tool that really does allow educators to control the digital environment and the devices while they're teaching. It really is engaging and creating interactive classrooms, and it's super simple. And that's the feedback that we've actually received from anyone that has seen and or experienced a demo. And even our new customers are just talking about how simple it is for the educators to upload materials, to share those materials appropriately, either part of the class, the whole class, to lock down screens, to stop, Tobias from going on to YouTube when he's in the middle of class, all sorts of different things. And it's just so intuitive. And I think that that is what is so exciting about ClassSpaces in the marketplace, is that, yes, there are many other tools out there for classroom device management. However, most of the time we're finding that there's a lot of circumstances where it's not being used in the classroom because it's either too complicated, it's too hard, the kids can't figure it out, those types of things. So with ClassSpaces being created for the very, very specific reason of being simple and easy, we're really helping both the educators as well as the kids in the classroom. One thing that I do want to share is that we do have our first customers. So they are going through our onboarding process today. And that, obviously, talking with folks all around the country, we're learning a lot about what is really important to the teachers, right? It's being able to get the kids to the materials that they need to be able to facilitate the learning experience. And, now that we support all the different devices, there's no better time to engage with us, to at least see what we've done. Josh, you can go to the next screen. On this next screen, kind of talks about, look, there's another QR code. We love those in this presentation today, but that'll take you over to the ClassSpaces website, which is classspaces.org. If you would like to contact us directly, you can do it from the website to get in touch, or you can shoot an email to info@classspaces.org, and that will come over to my team. We would be more than happy to show you, a demonstration of exactly how this works and how simple and easy it is. Again, it does integrate with ClassLink and Clever, the rostering systems, so that all those teacher rosters classes all get uploaded and make it super simple and easy for the teachers to facilitate their classes. So again, hit the QR code, send us a message, hit the website. We are more than happy to talk to you about what we're doing here with ClassSpaces and show you exactly how it can help your district. Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome. So at this point, we go to the, ask me anything, and usually we just go to me sharing my screen, but we asked for some questions ahead of time and they did come in. So I figured that we would talk about these things that had come in. And then, I'll drop to my normal sharing of my screen and folks will read off questions and we'll do the AMA. So for a couple of these, like, what does the future of the admin look like? I would say that, if you think about, these web admin, the next the next 10 weeks, we're going to alternate weeks and have every other Thursday the session of the web admin. I would say that that would be a good way to see, where things are going, but also watch the product roadmap, and have conversations with Gernot and, as it all develops, you'll see it through the road. It'll be reflected in the roadmaps and the releases, and that'd be the best way to answer that at this time. The next one is about Let's Encrypt, and most people probably know what Let's Encrypt is, but basically, you know, you need, or you want to use an SSL certificate for your FileWave server. Sometimes, you know, buying a certificate, at least historically, it's been, you know, kind of an expensive spend for an SSL certificate. Let's Encrypt is kind of a really interesting idea where it's free. Now you could always use Let's Encrypt, you know, it's just a normal SSL certificate. Operating systems trust it. It's pretty popular, but Let's Encrypt certificates expire every 90 days. So the headache is, well, every 90 days you have to do something to renew it. So we've kind of always had an internal script that could renew the Let's Encrypt certificate. We just never had a KB article about it. So we're going to publish a KB article and, you know, help you to be able to implement it without having to manually do something every 90 days, where the script would just handle it. So, you know, maybe Let's Encrypt becomes an option for you and you save a little bit of money at the same time. Or if you were thinking about doing or if you were doing a self-signed cert and you wanted to move over to a real certificate without an expense, this would be a way. I guess the only thing to keep in mind is, you know, if you're changing, let's say you do self-signed right now and maybe you use a domain name that's internal. If you're thinking about changing the DNS name of your server, you want to think about how that impacts your enrolled devices. Like, would you have to re-enroll them? But once we have this article posted about Let's Encrypt, you know, at least, yeah, it becomes an option that you could use Let's Encrypt. The next one was interesting. So, you know, in the web admin, we have a profile editor, right? And, you know, if you're making a doc profile, you know, could we make that interaction better where, you know, it's interacting with the desktop to define a doc? There are some limitations when you have a web-based profile editor in how it interacts with the macOS desktop. And those are things that we just have to think about what our way is to implement that, because Apple does not, you know, allow that. You know, it's not a safe thing, right? If you could go to a web page and it could interact with your desktop without permission, we have to think about tools that would let us interact in a way to add this kind of feature and interact with the doc. And, you know, maybe this is part of, there's a desktop tool that's part of this too. We kind of have to see like what's technically possible and try and implement the best thing. But again, you know, as things develop, they'll likely show up on the roadmap, and likely discussions with Gernot would be good, you know, and, you know, just keep educated on where we're going with the product and let us know through product board, you know, giving your ideas, you know, like this, like, you know, you'd like to see this, or, you know, and you could also tell us if you're aware of a technology to accomplish something that you think we just aren't aware of, let us know, because it's possible. The next one was about Intune, an MS endpoint connector. This is where I'd say it's not currently on the roadmap, but if you submit it through product board, you know, then it stands a chance of being on the roadmap. This is one of those things where we should be really good as customers, you should be good at giving that feedback. As a company, when we see support tickets come in where somebody asks something like this, we should be good at telling you, hey, we should make sure you put this in product board so that it's recorded. Because I think Gernot mentioned the idea that, you know, if we never are told about it, then it can't happen, right? So we want to make sure that we know everything that you want.
And just to chime in on that as well, because it's not that we haven't heard this one before, we have, but we haven't reached kind of a gravitational pull to bring it front and center. So the more folks that talk about any particular topic, the more that brings it to the top of the board for us as well. So the more feedback, the better, and I'm sure Gernot would agree.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the more customers, anyone that works with Apple knows that whenever you file a request, They ask for the impact, right? The number of devices involved, because yeah, every software company, they have to base, you know, development and know how popular something is by number of endpoints or some other metric. So definitely let us know. There's no such thing as too much feedback. And then next, the migration to the new web admin from native admin, basics and best practices. Well, so the webinars that are happening, those like Ask Me Anything sessions every other week, starting next week, those are your opportunity to really go through that. And as we're overhauling the Foundry, we know that web admin material needs to go in there. We paused for a bit on we didn't add web admin material to Foundry yet because there were so many rapid changes occurring, you know, that the material would have to get done and redone. But we're getting to the point now where the web admin is pretty well defined about what it does. Now we have this association to deployment migration tool that's being built. So it makes perfect sense for us to have that in Foundry so that you could learn on your own, and these webinars that we're going to have. And they won't stop with these 5 this summer. It's just that's this batch, and we're going to think about having these periodically. So the last thing is about this feature request, right? Is it possible for FileWave to add GPU metadata for clients? So I'll be honest, I actually had to look up what GPU metadata was for, you know, for inventory. I hadn't heard the term. Andreas actually found it for me. But the answer is, there's sort of multiple answers. One is, this is a perfect thing to submit to product board, right? Like as a request and having those discussions with Gurno. But also, you know, maybe it is possible. And I would say, I don't have the answer about if it's possible. I know what it is. There are properties of GPUs that you can query to be able to tell what they're doing and what they're capable of. If there is, so if you're thinking about Windows, right? There's Windows, there's Mac. If you think about Windows, if there's a PowerShell library to access the information, or if you're on a Mac, if there's a way to do it through Python or shell scripting, if there's a way to do that, then custom fields can instantly get any piece of data. And we're going to talk about custom fields in both the October event in the US and the September event in EU. Custom fields let you add anything that you want to collect, as long as there's some way to get to that data, right? And if there is no way to access that data, well, then FileWave would have a difficult time adding it as a built-in feature as well. There are sometimes things that we can do because of the way the agent's built that you might not be able to do through scripting. But I would say, you know, this is definitely something that you could look at doing through a custom field. And if for some reason developing that or researching it was kind of above your technical level, then you could also reach out to us for professional services. We also have lots of partners, you know, that do consulting. So, you know, we could either help you directly or connect you with somebody that could maybe, you know, build the script with you. So those are all options. Okay, so then with those out of the way, I'm gonna get out of screen sharing. Well, I'm still in screen sharing, but I'm not gonna share the presentation anymore. So we'll just close out of those things. And I'm logged out. So I guess, were there any questions that came in that that we should tackle?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. All right, there were a few questions. So to start with, just kind of a generic question. So as we know, in 14.8, Observe Client will no longer be in FileWave. So are there plans to remove FileWave's VNC client when devices are upgraded to 14.8?
So I believe the answer is yes. I believe I've tested this. And when you go to 14.8, the Observe client disappears from services.
Perfect. Great. And then, are there any plans?
I'll just add one thing to that, because we did have a question. Somebody was worried about whether it would just be there but in a disabled state, and they just didn't want it there at all. And so I did double check that. So I just wanted to add that.
Great. Okay. All right. And then next I have, are there any plans to include archive and reinstate options into the web admin?
Tony, would you know?
Any particular command with a device, for instance, with the archive and reinstate, for instance, would eventually be there. I don't think it's on our short list right now. We're focusing on the associations conversion, so we're not really working on additional commands on that side. The basic process for everything that moves to the web is that if it was done here in the native console, Josh shows it's a C++ backend, so code was written for that, but it wasn't built in an API way. So as we move things to the web, first we build an API for it and then expose that API to the web, and then we do the front end for that. And that then allows you to use those APIs to do things with them as well. So that would be the process, but we haven't started on that one, no.
Okay. And do we have any information about the whoa, I can't talk. Do we have any information about the implementation of Apple's declarative device management?
Well, this is where I really wish that PN weren't on vacation, but PN's on vacation right now. But the general way that we approach each one of the Apple releases is to focus on the core components first. So those for us are the DEP profile changes, the support of the new OSs, the changes for configuration profiles are always the things that we start with first. That's what the team's working on now. The declarative, and I think you said deterministic before, Josh. I always do the same thing where I confuse the two of them, but yeah. It is declarative.
Declarative,
yeah. It's basically pushing the logic, what we would call smart groups, down to the device to let it make choices. That's a little more long-term. Apple's hinted at some, that's you better be prepared. So we're working on being prepared, but it's secondary to those core components that we're working on as far as config profiles and such. So I'll have to table that one and let PN talk more about that probably next time. But he and the team are working on getting ready to start that.
All right, and then the last one I have noted is regarding Let's Encrypt. So is the support for a generic ACME or the automatic certificate management environment protocol, or Let's Encrypt only?
So what we had was a scripted way to handle Let's Encrypt directly. It wasn't using an existing framework. And so the KB article that we get posted would be very specific to updating a Let's Encrypt certificate. However, I would say that if there is a framework that somebody feels is popular or they like, send an email. I mean, the easiest thing is to email that kb@filewave.com, for the knowledge base, and send me that, even if it's the link to a website that talks about it, because if we could take advantage of a framework and make it work across more things, then we definitely would. Okay. Let me just get back into here.
And I just wanted to note that some of you have in the chat have written more feature request type things. I am writing those down, and then I will just contact you about creating a feature request product board ticket for those.
Yeah, and actually, so I want to point out something about, I'll go to the kb.filewave for a second. I want to just point one thing out about the roadmaps in case you didn't catch it when we were doing it. So the product management pages in the old KB, you used to not see them unless you were authenticated, right? The new knowledge base doesn't require anyone to authenticate, but the roadmaps, we don't necessarily have them public facing, right? So these links go to the Foundry. We thought about it a bit, and the Foundry intro course, right, when somebody's first learning about FileWave, felt like the perfect place to show them off, right? So if I click on roadmap, I'm going to end up in the Foundry, and I could SSO in. We won't see anything crazy here. So it takes you into the Foundry. So this felt like a good place. And so just remember that these are always here. and they're within the 101 intro course in this product roadmap, all 3 of these things. And so you won't have to remember because it's in the KB. If you search for product management, it'll show up and it'll take you right over to the Foundry sections, and then you can submit your feedback.
And that feedback doesn't have to be about huge features either. Jimmy, I see your comment in the chat about the default location in a file set still being root on the macOS side. That's a perfect kind of thing to put in as an enhancement request, right? Josh, if you go back to that portal for just a second, if you go to the product suggestion one, that button in the top right, just submit an idea, is not linked to any particular thing. So you can just write whatever it is that you're looking for here. So that's a perfect example of making a change, though, in what I would call a minor enhancement, but it helps every day. And those are things that we really like to focus on too. So that's a perfect kind of request to put in there. And your point's accurate that we probably shouldn't default there since it's no longer allowed.
So any other questions come in? While you're looking, I'm just going to point out that although we said, the GA release of 14.8 is considered tomorrow, we do have a process where we roll it out over time. So even though we say the GA process is tomorrow, we've really been deploying it since last week. And when we do that, we want to make sure that the knowledge base articles are posted. So when you go to the KB, you can just click FileWave Release Notes, and we're doing just like we've done for other releases, where the 14.8 release notes are here, and the articles related to it are here, so you can read through them. You'll be able to see the changes, even if you want to look today just to prepare yourself. And if you'd like, whether you're on-premise or hosted, if you have interest in, kind of being one of the first, sometimes people want to be one of the first because there's a security update. Generally in our releases, there's also security updates for things like Apache or OpenSSL, any one of the libraries that we use that, have security updates fairly frequently. You might want to be in that early adopter list, or we used to call it early adopter, but it's just sort of the first people. Somebody ends up being first. So if you'd like to be in that first every time, it's really easy. I just add you to a list, and then you'll get an email, sooner than others. Okay, and we put, in a red warning, we want to make sure, I suppose this is really critical about 14.8, don't interrupt it. I do this myself, right? Something takes a long time and I start to question, is it going to finish? Do I hit cancel? What would be the worst thing if I canceled? You don't want to do this. You do also want to think about, if you have an on-premise server, right? And this is largely a warning for on-premise people because you're managing the upgrade. Think about if you back up your server, whether it's a snapshot backup of the server or you're using the backup script that's in our knowledge base, please make sure you're backing up because it's not just for upgrades. Something bad could happen to your server. You want to make sure that you can recover from it. There's certificates in there. You really just want to be able to recover. So if you run the server yourself, think about if you've, if you're backing up, right? Just ask yourself that question. Could I restore if I needed to? And best practices like backing up is also something that's part of the 2 training days because we want to make sure that, it sounds basic, but we found cases where somebody didn't have a backup and we helped, we were sometimes able to piece things together, but having a backup is critical. And don't cancel the upgrade.
Yeah, and a backup that's not actually stored on the FileWave server as well.
Yes, because we had somebody lose a storage array.
When we lose hardware, it creates so much work to restore that. And there was something you were mentioning before. You mentioned the on-premise folks. I just want to mention for those of you who are hosted, the timing, of course, will be accounted for because the upgrades happen in the middle of the night. But the second thing about the ports, I just want to mention that'll be taken care of for you. So we'll make those adjustments so that your admin consoles will continue to receive notifications correctly.
Although I'd add to that, so the server will be able to listen on those ports. But if you are, and this can affect schools and corporations equally, if you block outbound ports, except for the ones that you allow, like there was a company Tony and I worked at where that was the case. You had to ask for ports to be opened, right? They were closed by default. So these ports are not like 80 and 443 are obviously open, but in the TCP and UDP usage, and I've meant to highlight this a little bit better, but they are in green right now. This actually reminds me, and you can kind of see that they're called out, and you'll see the port numbers and it'll mention NATs. So just take a look at this article and ask yourself if these ports would be open. The port testing tool, that's linked to in the article, does not include these ports as of this moment, but you can add them, to what it tests. We're going to take a look at adding them to the tool. So any other questions come in, Emma?
I don't see any. I've answered a few privately.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there anything that you answered directly that would benefit everybody else to know the question and answer?
Well, there was a question about the 14.8 custom client being available yet.
Oh, that should be tomorrow, right, Tony? Or will that be today, that the custom client on the webpage?
It'll be tomorrow when we post everything, when we publish everything publicly. That's one of the check boxes that we go through and check.
All right, and then just had a few enhancement requests, and that's about it.
Okay, well, so I'll add to the 14.8 things. It kind of works out that we're having this meeting, right around 14.8. We would have actually released it, sooner, but we wanted to make sure, to the download page, but we wanted to make sure we had this discussion with as many people as we could about the ports, making sure that they're reachable, about the fact that in the release notes, right, that the observed client, and we talked about this, that the observed client is end of life. And so if you upgrade to 14.8 from a previous version, you are going to see that you can't use the observed client, right? It's not there. So then make sure as you step into 14.8 that you're prepared to use TeamViewer. And remember that there's a couple of licenses for TeamViewer in your server. And so if you have 10 technicians, but there's only 2 licenses, then you want to really reach out to customer experience about what to do. And you may not want to go to 14.8, first thing tomorrow. You may want to just assess about whether you're good on TeamViewer. Did you take the steps to deploy it? We have knowledge base articles about it. Did you test it out, that it works well for you? And if you have an issue, you could reach out to support. If there's like a typo or some kind of thing in the knowledge base that you feel like it's just wrong in the knowledge base, you can email that kb@filewave.com. That'll go to me and my group, and we will fix whatever you discover in the knowledge base article. But at this point, that article or the set of articles about TeamViewer have existed for, I think, about a year now. So they've gone through a few iterations. The state they're in now, they're pretty well tested. So I don't know, otherwise, if there weren't other questions, I mean, maybe people are saving web admin questions for the webinars that are coming, and that's totally fine. We could always end this early if unless Tony or if anybody else has anything they need to discuss on this call.
I don't have anything particularly leaping to mind.
Okay. Well, while we do that, I believe that wait, let me stop sharing just for a second. And I realize that I have one more slide to show. So I said at the, when I was speaking earlier, and if anybody has something that jumps to mind last minute, feel free to
let me jump in there. Yeah, there was a question from Jimmy there on the features in the admin being deprecated. I will talk to that a little bit as we're moving into the web and making sure that everything's in the web. It's been kind of a scattershot approach of the things that we've been doing in the web to make sure that we've got kind of a breadth of functionality, but no particular area of it is 100% done. When you look at it, like I'll pick an example like reports. Reports are in the web. You can build them, you can view them, but we don't have scheduled reports implemented, right? So we're not going to do anything with deprecation of reports in native until we've got it fully featured in the web. So when going through that process, we're evaluating which areas we're working on first. The ones that are kind of top of mind right now are enrollment. We'd like to kind of finish up with the enrollment pieces because the web doesn't do conflict resolution right now, and it doesn't do the automatic enrollment pieces. So that's one that's, for instance, on our targeted list. The general plan for anything that we're going to deprecate is in the version before. We'll at least the version before we'll publish that it's something we intend to deprecate soon while we're working on the other, and usually we'll try to parallel the two. So you've got the new with the old in a deprecated state, and you get a chance to use the new, give us the feedback on it, allow us to make improvements if there's some kind of catastrophic problem or something with it, that we can make those adjustments and then we'll move forward. So we're going what is it, slowly said the sloth, or however that book goes. So that's how we're trying to go with it, out of an abundance of caution.
And that question that I see there about the FileWave admin in 14.8, the FileWave admin that you saw on my screen was the 14.8 one. It's, nothing's gone away. In fact, even the profile editor, right, Tony, is still, you get that pop-up that tells you it's being deprecated, but it's still in 14.8.
That's correct.
And while we just see if there's any other questions, I'm going to share sort of the final slide that was going to thank everybody for joining, because it has the QR codes. We can still answer a question or two, if they come in, we can answer more than that. But I wanted to make sure everybody had these QR codes if you had interest in anything that we had discussed today.
Just show of hands, anybody on the call that's coming to training day in October in Indy? I guess that would be a virtual show of hands. Well, there's at least one. We really look forward to seeing you if you get a chance to join us there. Any other questions, last minute or otherwise, and we can go to get everybody back to the beach.
And it could be even about these anything we've talked about today. It doesn't have to be product specific. If you had a question about what's happening on US Training Day, some aspect we didn't talk about, feel free. Since I can't see the chat though, I guess Tony will look for it. Okay. Well, if nothing came in, we could wrap it up. It's been a lot we talked about, and I look forward to speaking with you guys again in another quarter.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We really appreciate you you joining us today, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much.